Krystal, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know we're virtual this time, but I am so excited to talk to you. You're really great at logging your journey online and starting your organization and all of that stuff. So I just want to learn more about you and what your org does too. So, first question, who were you before cancer?
Amazing. So thank you for having me. This is so excited, and also thank you for sharing your journey. I was like going through your page, and like sarcoma is no joke. Like I have a girl in my nonprofit that had it, and like I know how rigorous all the treatment is. So God bless you, and you're amazing too for like opening up the doors for other people to learn about it. Because I know breast cancer is a little bit more common, right? And like people talk about it more, but like when you look up sarcoma or something, it's like there's not much on there.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and like there wasn't I remember in middle school we all had like the bracelets that were like, like what was it? It was like we love boobies, or do you remember that?
Yeah, or like
It was
live
like
strong or blood cancer. Yeah.
yeah, and so I was like, dang, maybe the sarcoma community needs to come out with some like catchy phrases.
Yeah. I'll help you guys out.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so who was I before cancer? Honestly, I was just a single girly living her best life. I've lived in New York, I lived in Nashville, Tennessee, I was living in Miami, and honestly, my life was just pretty consistent. I had a, full-time job my whole life, great family. I wasn't really doing anything else. I was just kind of living, having fun, going on yachts, doing whatever I had to do with no obligations, no kids or anything. Super healthy. And that's, where everything started to go down. Nobody in my family has cancer or had cancer, or that word has never really been talked about in my family. So I didn't know the signs or symptoms of cancer. And I actually didn't really have any signs or symptoms of cancer. So that's why, like, I was just living, moving around, having fun. So yeah, that's who I was, just a ball of fire.
And so how did you initially find out you had cancer?
So when I was living in West Palm Beach, I had a lump that I go every year for a yearly physical, and they did find a lump. And right away, I went to an ultrasound tech. They did a little, this is nothing. I had very large breasts that are considered dense breasts. So they just said it was dense breast tissue and nothing's wrong with me. Move on with my life. So about 8 months later, I decided to move to Miami. So I get up, pack my life, go to Miami. And of course, that 1 year mark is coming again. And I'm like, all right, let me get new doctors because I was very good. For some reason, I don't know, I always knew every year, go get your physical. So I went and I actually went to a new gynecologist, and she saw the lump as well. And she was like, oh, hey, you have something here. And I was like, I just got this checked out. They said it was nothing. This was like 8, 9 months ago. And she's like, I'm sure it's nothing, but like for a peace of mind, go to my radiologist in Miami. So I went and they did the same thing, a little ultrasound. And she's like, this is really nothing. Like I can tell it's nothing, but let's do a biopsy because this is your second time in 1 year. And just, same thing, peace of mind. It was called an MRI guided biopsy where they can see everything inside. And there was a big needle that went in. And even from her looking through the MRI afterwards, she was like, listen, I looked at that tumor, or not tumor, that like growth or whatever,
Or like mass?
mass. Yeah. They were like, it's nothing. Like, call your mom, tell your family you're fine. Like, you can sleep. Like, I was like, okay. And I knew nothing about cancer. So 2 days later, they actually called me on the phone and they told me, but they didn't say like you have cancer. They're like, you have invasive ductal carcinoma. And I'm like, so what's that? Like, they were like, cancer. I'm like, how am I supposed to know what that is?
I
Like,
know, literally.
no idea. And it was like on the phone. I lived
On
alone.
the
So like, it
phone. I
wasn't like
lived
I had anyone
alone,
to
so like
like be like, what is that? Like, so that was like, that was how I found out.
and so after they told you that you had cancer, were you like, okay, now what? Like, did they offer anything kind of after that?
They were
They
just
were
like,
just
so
like, so
for breast
for breast
cancer,
cancer,
they
they
tell you
tell
like
you
right
like
away,
right
like
away,
this
like
is
this
the type
is
of
the type
cancer
of
you
cancer you
have.
have.
It takes
It
more
takes more
days for the
days for the
results to
results
fully
to
come
fully come
in.
in.
So all they
So all
really
they
said
really
was
said was like
breast
breast
cancer,
cancer,
and
and
we're
we're
waiting a few
waiting a few
days.
days.
Well, I don't know if you know much about breast cancer, but like they don't really give you full results right away. It does take multiple days for the full results to come in. So all you know is you have cancer. You don't know if you have terminal cancer or breast cancer. You don't know if you have, triple negative cancer or triple positive. You have no idea what kind of cancer you have. And they're like, all right, well, we'll call you in a few days with more results. So all you do is look up, oh my God, I have cancer. You know what I mean? So that's all you can think about. So what did I do? I hopped in the car and immediately started driving to my parents' house, who lived like an hour and a half away, because I didn't know what to do. I was alone in Miami. I called my brother on the way and I told him he's a paramedic firefighter. So I figured maybe he knows more. I always think like paramedics and firefighters know
Yeah.
more. And he like calmed me down and was like, okay, this is what's gonna happen. You're gonna go to mom and dad's house. You're gonna tell them. So that was that, and that was kind of hard. And then from that moment on, we started getting more results. They called me and they said, this, and this, and I'm like, well, where do I go? Like, I've only been to a physician for a physical and a gynecologist, dentist, and eye doctor, and that's it. Like, where do I go? So the gynecologist made a recommendation to see Dr. Star Mountainer out of Miami. Apparently, she was really popular. So that was my first
Popular?
appointment. Yeah, she was really popular down in Miami with the young girls. So I went and saw her, and like she like immediately like alleviated everything. Like she was so cool, so young, like drew diagrams to make us understand like what was going on. Okay, this is this, and this. Then from there, obviously like they didn't know how big it was. So, breast tissue, when it's dense, it's like jello. So if you put like, an object in a piece of jello, it kind of goes around it and it kind of
Yeah.
covers it. They didn't know how big it was. So
Mm.
they can't stage you yet. They have to see how big is this thing and is it in your lymph nodes. So I had to go for more testing. So I had to go for an MRI. First I went for a mammogram, and the mammogram, they still said like, hey, like we don't know how big this thing is. Like we can't see it. And they showed, in the ultrasound and mammogram, they had all these signs. Like it can be either 2 centimeters, it could be 5 centimeters. And that's different. That's stage 2 or stage 3, could be stage 4. You don't know. So then they're like, all right, let's do MRI. And MRI was like where it showed like, wow, that sucker was, 2.3 centimeters, which is considered large. So after all the testing, you sit down with the surgical oncologist to figure out, okay, what's the first step? And in my case, the first step was surgery.
Whoa, that's such like a of surprise, because you're like, oh, I've already been told by so many people that like this is nothing, and then it's like, oh wait, it's actually something super serious, and just like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people are like, oh, like you should sue for misdiagnosis and all this. And to be honest, like cancer is so complex. Like maybe like 8 months prior, the tumor wasn't there, or maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't a tumor yet. Maybe it was just starting to create itself. But cancer has a mind of its own. It can grow overnight. And mine was fairly aggressive. I caught it at stage 2, so obviously it's stage 1, 2, 3, 4. It would have been better for stage 0 or stage 1, but I got lucky and I was able to catch it in stage 2. But yeah, it was really devastating to know that, if I would have not moved to Miami and I just moved on with my
Yeah.
life, I could be, deceased right now, because I would have never went to another doctor. I would have stayed in, with that same doctor that told me I was fine.
It's so true. It's like so important to go to multiple people and like to be seen, but that's so not even, it's so hard to do insurance wise, and also just like logistics of, oh, I'm gonna just go to every like a different doctor every year. Like it's not like plausible, honestly.
Yeah. That's what I tell all my friends and my family. Like, if they feel, I always tell them, this is my saying: if you feel something, say something. If you feel, it doesn't have to be a lump. If you know something's going on in your body, you have a weird itch, a weird pain, a weird lump, if there's a pucker, a dimple, and I'm not just talking about breast cancer, anything, if you have a weird, like, what is that weird pain there? Say something. And if the doctors aren't taking you serious, you got to find another doctor. Like, self advocacy is key, because I can't tell you how many of the girls in my community are terminally stage 4 because they were misdiagnosed from the beginning. And there are amazing stories where now they are cancer free. I have a friend, she was stage 4 lymphoma, and she was also misdiagnosed. Well, she wasn't misdiagnosed. She was improperly treated. She went to one hospital and they told her she was going to die. And then she went to another hospital and then they ended up saving her life. But for 3 years, she was misdiagnosed. They told her she had bad lungs and a cough, a chronic cough and stuff like that. So if there's any changes, like if you just feel your body right now, any changes, if you're a little tired. The thing with my breast cancer is I was lucky I had a little lump. Some people have lumps inside their chest, under their armpits, in their chest wall, and they have no side effects. I had no real symptoms of cancer. I wasn't fatigued. I wasn't in pain. I had no aches. I didn't gain weight. I didn't lose weight. My whole life was like plateau, like very consistent. So some people, when they figure out they have cancer, it's too late.
Yeah, it's so hard. And like, I totally agree with the advocacy part because we're the only people to know when something's wrong with us. Like, and it's like not easy either. Because I feel like after having gone through cancer, it's also kind of like a mind shift sometimes of like, am I just being paranoid of, what is kind of like almost like PTSD versus another symptom. So it's hard to kind of decipher sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because like now after you're diagnosed, like sometimes survivorship is even harder because every little thing you freak out about, right? Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know that was a sign of cancer. Now we understand. And unfortunately, like I feel like if I was more educated on this, like maybe if my gynecologist or my doctor would give you a pamphlet, with all the types of cancers and the types of maybe symptoms or just anything, like none of my doctors sat down and was like, hey, if you have a lump, this is the thing. And to be honest, like the only other symptom I could think of breast cancer was one of my areolas where the cancer was bigger. And I just thought that was part of growing up. We're getting older now and gravity's taking over and stuff like that. But if my doctors would have said, hey, if your areola gets larger or smaller, report that. And that it didn't look abnormal because I would get breast scans, but like, I had large breasts, so it looked normal. But now that I understand cancer, that is a sign, and not even just enlargement. It can get smaller, shrink. There could be discharge, itchiness. I have a friend who had an itchy nipple. That was her thing, and they were like, "Oh, you're allergic to your laundry detergent." So there's a lot of things that I feel like as providers, like every year, hey, any changes in your body. I'm sure some doctors do that, but to be honest, I've lived in 3 states and none of my doctors ever like prepped me for that.
No, not at all. Me either. And it's interesting because it's like cancer is so common now that it's like it's not even like, oh, this far away possibility. It's like odds are really high actually that at some point in your life you'll have cancer. So it's like might as well talk about it from the beginning of what that could look like.
Exactly. And now that it's getting more popular on social media, I think that if there's a time to have cancer, it's probably going to be now, because I can't even tell you how many girls have messaged me on TikTok like, "Oh my God, you saved my life. I have breast cancer now, but I never knew, like, a weird itch on my armpit could have been cancer, but because I saw your video of your friend, that when you interviewed your friend, I went and got checked." And like, so things like that, or like when you watch the news and you see a news channel report on, this person who passed away, well, let's read their story. Read their story, well, they had, a weird indent in their brain, so you start to learn. So people are catching it quicker now because of all the advocacy that's going on, especially with celebrities.
Yeah, it's so true. And so tell me more about what your organization does and kind of like what that community of being around people who just get it does like for everyone in it.
Of course. So when I was going through cancer treatment, I was pretty lonely. So I went through it I started 2 years ago in 2023. Well, we're going on 3 years. This is going to be my third year. So back 3 years ago, there wasn't much on social media. Like it was more of like a lot of people really upset, being negative, how horrible this is, how horrible that is. And it just made me feel like kind of like lonely. And I didn't really have a community. None of my friends had cancer. None of my family had cancer. My treatment was a little bit longer than most people. Unfortunately, I had a lot of complications. So I went through 9 surgeries and chemotherapy and IVF. So within that like 2 year time frame, I just was like, I never want any other cancer patient to ever feel the way I felt about being lonely and not having anyone to talk to. So I promised myself, I knew I was going to win. I was going to beat this. So I said, when I beat this, like I'm going to start something. And it started very small. I started with another cancer patient. We just started like a little podcast. And then from then, a lot of people were in the area in Miami were like, "Oh my God, I have cancer too. Oh my gosh, I have cancer too." So we just started out as a podcast. And then all of a sudden we had a little meetup, a little thing here, a little dinner here. And then all of a sudden now I'm like being fiscally sponsored by the Miami Foundation. So now I'm receiving tax exempt donations and I'm hosting events. I just had an event for Valentine's Day last weekend where I had a cute little brunch. We had a professional photographer donate their time and their money and do professional photos of the girls, which I'm going to be posting in a little while. But it's like it's so empowering because like I'm going to start posting some of the videos. And some of these girls, like this woman came in for her first event with us, and she was just sobbing, like, I never met any other cancer patients. If it wasn't for, you girls, like, I would be so lost. Because to be honest, like I talk to girls all day, like they're like sending me like their results, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? I didn't have that. And I wish I had someone that was like, what does this mean? I did. I had one person, but she wasn't local. She was in New York, and she was still going through her journey too. So I didn't want to like burden her with like a lot of questions. But being in a community is so much better. It's like so empowering. And especially for the girls who are unfortunately like, stage 4, it's a good environment for them to be in, so that we can, be that like hugging,
Yeah, that's no, it's so helpful, and like to just understand where each other are at, like energetically, and kind of like it's hard for people to respond in certain ways that aren't like, offensive sometimes, or just that whole thing. And so to be around people who know what to say and know how to be there for each other is so huge.
that's the thing. Like, no offense to like my family and friends, like none of them have really been through it. So it's hard for me to call them and be like, oh my gosh, my 4th medicine I just started is giving me this side effect. Like they're kind of like, okay, like
Yeah.
cancer, isn't it over? Like what's going on? So when I call my
Yeah.
cancer girls, because I don't know if you know much about, breast cancer, a majority of us are in chemically induced menopauses. So we are, going through a lot. Like I'm on 4 meds, injections and stuff like that. And no one will ever feel that way unless you're in a chemically induced menopause. And the only people that go into chemically induced menopause, typically breast cancer patients and women who have like ovarian cancer or like endometriosis and stuff like that. So those are the only people that understand, like, wow, I just wet the bed last night because I was soaked. I literally soaked from a hot flash. But my friends in their 20s and 30s, like they're like, oh, that sucks. Like they don't
Hmm.
get it. And I also don't want to like annoy them all the time. Like, my God, and this and this and this. But
I know, they're like, when does it end?
yeah, you call a cancer patient or survivor of any type of cancer, and they're like, oh, tell me more. I want to learn.
Yeah,
Like, you're actually interested in learning more.
100%. And so what helped with all of your different side effects that came with not only treatment, but also the after survivorship kind of medications that you went on?
Yeah, so I'm on a lot of different meds. Unfortunately, there's no like remedies like for them. It's more of like you have to stay active. So now I'm like super active. So one of my medications is causing me to have like osteoporosis, osteopenia. So now I have to do bone infusions, and I take high dose of vitamin D and vitamin and calcium. I'm way more active now. So even though like a lot of negatives come out of it, it's positives now because I changed my entire diet. So I have not touched alcohol. We're going on 3 years now. No fast food. So no McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, Taco Bell. Processed meat. So like deli meat, like boar's head, any of that. I have not touched any of that. I live an active lifestyle. So now I have like a weighted vest. I do walks daily as much as I can. I try to take like classes, especially like Pilates, and like I started trampoline classes, rebounder classes to help with the bones. And I try not to like, I have hot flashes, but I try not to take any more pills because I'm already on so many medications. So by me eating really healthy too, I think it also helps, because if I eat bad or like spicy or something, that can cause hot flashes. I've tried to like take out all the stress, well, as much as I can in my life, because stress also causes and hurts more side effects. I've also had to like lessen my doses of some of the medications and pray that they would work, because some of the side effects were like, for instance, I had a side effect. I've had really bad heart palpitations. It felt like I was having a heart attack 24/7,
Oh
and
my
there's
gosh,
no
that's awful.
remedies. Yeah, like I would lay in bed and my resting heart rate was like 190, and it's
And
supposed to
you
be like
can't function like that.
you can't, but there's no remedies. Like, oh, what do you
Yeah,
like,
make
lay
your
in bed? Yeah,
heart
I'm
stop
laying in bed.
beating, like,
So some of the meds you just have to cut in half and then pray that, they still work effectively. But sometimes it's
totally.
more of a quality of life
Yeah,
than,
and it's just a constant decision making of like the cost benefits, and kind of it is a risk sometimes when you're trying anything or lessening things. But if someone just got diagnosed and they came upon this video, what would you want them to know?
I would tell them to stop scrolling on TikTok. That's the scariest thing, going on TikTok and seeing a lot of the negative stories. I respect all cancer patients, all cancer survivors, thrivers, warriors, but every journey is going to be different. Your journey, I will promise you 100,000% that your journey is going to be different than somebody else's. So yes, there are some, unfortunately, like terminally ill people that you're going to see their videos and stuff, but skip that. You don't want to watch anything sad. Don't watch anything, because that, chances are if you're still alive, then you don't need to, be scrolling like that. I would also say like there's a rainbow at the end of the tunnel, if that's a saying. I think that's a saying.
It is now. It is now. You just coined it.
There's a rainbow at the end of what is the saying?
I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
There's
yeah, but that's okay.
There's a rainbow at the end of the tunnel. I'm going to say it like that. There's a rainbow at the end of the tunnel while you're going through your journey. It's going to be hard. It's not easy, but I can guarantee you, like, the things that you see in the movies and on the TikTok and Instagram videos, it's going to be a little slightly different than, your own journey. Embrace the bald. This is the only time you're going to be able to be whoever you want. You could be, have a long wig. You have a short wig. You could be a bald baddie. Have some fun with it. Dress up for chemo, dress up for surgeries, because I wish I took more videos. I wish I took more pictures and stuff like that, because now your story is going to be somebody else's survival guide. So by you documenting everything and you telling everybody your story, people are going to scroll back and be like, oh, I remember she said that in chemo. Let me go look at her story. And they remember. And oh my gosh, I didn't know you can do that. I did that, and guess what? I have no chemo side effects. So, try to document everything and really will change somebody's lives. And it's like the best feeling ever.
That sentence right there, like your story is going to be someone else's survival guide, is literally so true. It's perfect. Krystal, thank you so much for coming on. I love that how you share and how you talk and like the energy that you bring to this discussion, and I'm so glad that people are supporting your organization and that you're providing a space for so many people who need it. So thank you for all of the work you do.
Thank you so much, and thank you too for sharing your story and being an inspiration and somebody else's survival guide for the rest of your life.